Well, it is a sunny summer day and I am in a 2-seat drop-top convertible with a supercharged 5-liter V8. Now with a recipe like that, how could you go wrong? Well, it kind of did go wrong in some ways. I'll explain. This is the 2022 Jaguar F-Type, and specifically it's the P450 convertible all-wheel drive. Now, the F-Type starts at about $87,000, the convertible at $90,300. For the all-wheel drive, $10,500, the one you see is $109,000. Now in Canada, the inline 4s and the V6s are gone. You can only get the F-Type as a V8, only with a 5-liter supercharged V8. It comes in 444 horsepower trim as we have here today, or you can step up to the R, which is now called the P450, which makes, you guessed it, 575 horsepower. The R engine only comes with all-wheel drive, but this engine you can get as rear-wheel drive or as all-wheel drive. Ours today is an all-wheel drive model. Now, all-wheel drive costs $10,200. That's right, $10,000 to upgrade to all-wheel drive. And for that, you get a 159-pound weight penalty and an identical 0 to 60. And an identical top speed. According to Jaguar, no measurable performance benefit from the all-wheel drive other than stability. We'll get into more of that in a bit. Now, as far as I can tell, there's only ever been one other front-engine, 2-seat convertible with all-wheel drive, and that was the Bentley Bacalar. And I'm going to delve into a bit of why I don't think many other people are trying this recipe. So let's put it in D and go for a drive. Everyone thought that this thing was just the best looking car ever when it came out in 2014, and it was an Ian Callum design, and I guess it still is. They had to reshape the front end of this car due to pedestrian impact regulations, a bit more squared off front. I like it. I appear to be in the minority. Most people don't like the redesign, but it's still a good looking car. You drive this car around though, and people don't really look at it, and I think that's just because we've gotten used to F-Types. This same shape has been around for, well, about 8 years now. This car has a supercharged 5-liter V8, and that's a good thing. There's not many supercharged V8s you can buy in a 2-seat convertible. It's a pretty cool recipe, but you can never hear the supercharger. And I don't get Jaguar's decision to do that because superchargers are cool. And if you own one, you want to hear it. Imagine if this car sounded like a Hellcat. It would be so great. They tell me there's a supercharger, I can feel it working, but even when you floor it, you never hear it. Sounds good. So the supercharged V8 in question makes 444 horsepower and 423 pound-feet of torque, which is about the same as what Mustang 5-liter makes without a supercharger. So I don't know why they need one if you can't even hear it. And that's good for 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. In the all-wheel drive or the rear-wheel drive, it doesn't matter. It's the same according to Jaguar. And I have no reason to doubt that because I'm assuming the extra grip probably evens out the 160-pound weight penalty. And I will demonstrate the 0 to 60. There's no launch control mode. You just whack it. So there's no launch control to do. I just sit here and floor it. Here we go. That's it. It's very quick. But putting on my critiquing hat, 4.6 seconds to 60 in a 2-seat sports car for $100,000 is not that great. I think pretty much all of its competitors for the money will beat it to 60 miles an hour. That includes things like the Porsche 718, BMW Z4 Roadster. I mean, you pretty much, all those are, low 4s or some are even into the 3s, and that's before we even touch things like the Chevy Corvette, which will absolutely annihilate this thing. So what then are you buying this car for? Well, is it the handling prowess? Maybe not, because despite the fact it is Jaguar's smallest car, it is very heavy, 3,945 pounds. This thing is not light, despite the fact that it is small. And what that weight means is that you feel it. You throw this thing into a corner, there's a big feeling of weight. The thing does not feel very connected. like you would want a sports car to feel. It feels like I'm driving a slightly smaller Dodge Challenger, if I'm honest. So that light connection you would get with something like a Porsche 718 or a Mazda Miata is not there. And I also don't really feel the all-wheel drive doing things. I'm on public roads, I'm not at a track, and I haven't really pushed hard enough to feel where the all-wheel drive would be a benefit. And something like a Porsche 911, I can see the all-wheel drive because, you know, all-weather sports car, but this is a cloth top car. This is not a hard top. At a certain speed, the baffles open up on the exhaust, about 4,000, and it does sound really good. Well, you might say, it's a big, heavy, quasi-sports car. It must be a good GT. And that would be true if it was comfortable, or you could put things in it. Because it's so heavy, the springing has to be really stiff to control all this mass. And even in its comfort setting, but there's only 3 settings. There's normal, sport, and like snow and ice. But even in the normal setting, it's not smooth. It's pretty stiff. It's a pretty stiff car all around, despite the fact that the seats are excellent. You feel all the bumps, and the short wheelbase means you feel those expansion joints. It's not a relaxing ride. And the other problem with road tripping this car is that it has a tiny trunk. It can fit 1 carry-on bag in it. Like, you're not gonna get 2 carry-on bags. And the idea that a 4,000-pound 2-seater cannot carry 2 people's bags for a weekend trip is a little crazy to me. I excuse the Mazda Miata for it because it's tiny and also it's not built for road tripping. But this is a long-legged, heavy, almost a GT car, but it has no trunk. Now, admittedly, it's a problem with the convertible, and the coupe has double the trunk space. All that said, on a sunny day, the Jaguar still delivers the carnal thrills we love of sports cars. It sounds delicious, it looks good, and it feels sporty. I also think they've done a great job keeping this design modern. Let's pull ourselves inside this car for a bit. We have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, but only a wired one. Do not have wireless phone charging. We do have a USB port to charge your little phone. Storage space in here is adequate. There's a real glove box, which is nice. You don't always get that in a sports car. And there's this little cargo net thing for your phone, nice touch. And there's an adequate center console in here. It's okay, there's some door storage. The interior storage is not bad. I actually like the interior finishes as well. I like the leather, I think it's well done. I like the aluminum trim that they've done, and the air vents kind of motor up and down depending on whether or not you have the HVAC on. It's a bit of theater, it adds some weight and complexity, but when we're talking about a 4,000-pound car, I think we can forgive the electric motors in the dashboard. And usually at this part of the review, I like to talk about who this car is for, who's the ideal buyer. And I'll be honest, with this one, I am struggling. I don't know who a all-wheel drive, cloth top, heavy sports car that's expensive and has no trunk is for. Other combinations of the F-Type I see more clearly. For example, if you wanted to get the big engine, all-wheel drive, R coupe, I get it. If you want to get the rear-wheel drive convertible, that also makes sense. But this specific version, I don't quite see the point. Because with 575 horsepower, you start to use that all-wheel drive a little bit more. You know, like, grip becomes more of a factor at that horsepower level. But nearly over 100 horsepower down from that, you don't really need the all-wheel drive for pavement grip in a car like this. It's not a car I see you autocrossing, for example. Do I think the Jaguar F-Type is a bad car? No, I think it's honestly been failed by the spec sheet. I think that the ideal Jaguar F-Type would be a V6 automatic, or with that manual transmission they offered for a few years, and the convertible, because that would give it a more sporting flavor, less of a GT car. I think the all-wheel drive, the big V8 are great for the coupe, because the coupe, with double the cargo capacity of the convertible, you can actually put things in for a longer trip. That makes sense. I think that right now, with the speccing options we have in Canada, it makes more sense to buy the coupe, honestly. It's a little less money, it's a lot more practical, and I think that the trade-off of more storage capacity in exchange for the open air experience is worth it. But I mean, the Jaguar F-Type still has virtues. I mean, listen to this. That's absolutely rude. Pulling back from my criticisms, we have to remind ourselves it is 2022, and every month it seems like there's a new electric replacement for a previously gasoline engine car. And honestly, supercharged V8 gasoline thrills like this are going away, plain and simple. And the fact that the F-Type exists is enough reason to like it automatically almost. There's very few cars left like this, and there's fewer every year. And I hope that Jaguar Canada sees fit to really look at that spec sheet and figure out which combinations are going to deliver the most value to consumers. For Driving.ca, I'm Clayton Seams, and for more sports car reviews and information, don't forget to check out our website at Driving.ca, where you'll find my full written review of this car.